Bonjour, everyone, and welcome to the very first hot seat of Stand the Fuck Out. I'm your host, Louis Grenier. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I've been sick of hearing about, from experts telling you, we must stand out, you must stand out, you must be different. They get, your creative circuits firing. They make you believe that, yeah, absolutely, I must stand out. There's so much clutter online. Yet, I've yet to come across expert and people telling you exactly how to do it for your actual context, your actual company, the customers you have. And that's what I've kind of been starting to work on over the last few months. And I wanted to set that up today to help all of you, or as many as I can. The beautiful concept of hot seat is not something I came up with. It's my friend Hilary Weiss who talked about it a lot. And the good thing about it is that even though you're not necessarily on the spotlight, it's not necessarily your challenge that you've submitted, you will get value, you will hear problems from others, and this will help you as well. So that's the nice thing about it. The other thing is I've picked, and I've lied to you, I haven't picked 5 submissions. I've picked 9. I've picked 9 submissions because I wanted to cover as much ground as possible, and I've picked those submissions so they fit in a tiny little theme, and everything together just should fit nicely into each other. So even if I haven't selected your submission, even if you haven't submitted anything, I hope that this session will help you. So before the house rules, just a few minutes, I'll explain a few things related to the way it's going to work. I want to talk to you briefly about my program, Stand the Fuck Out, which is an 8-week program that I set up a few months ago. I did the first early access for 14 people recently. And the second cohort is opening next Monday, February 1st. Applications open February 1st. So I know that a lot of you are already in the waiting list. Thank you. If you're not on the waiting list, if you have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, I'm just going to put the address of the program in the chat. And I also send it over email after that. The reason why I'm talking to you about this today, right now, is because, and I'm trying to find a way to send it to all of you. I send it to you over email. Or if someone has it, can put it in the chat. You can put it to everyone. I can't seem to only be able to send people. There you go, everyone. Poof. Okay. And this is what you're seeing right now. This kind of group coaching is what we are doing every week with Stand the Fuck Out. And it's very much more in depth because it's limited to 20 people. So people who want to make their business radically stand out, make their product or service radically stand out. So this is a little taste of what it is. If you have any questions whatsoever, you have my email. I've sent you an email about this. You can reply directly to the email. Again, I'll send you an email after that with the recording. And you can ask any question you may want. So again, applications open February 1st, and it's called Stand the Fuck Out. On the topic of profanity, I might curse and say a few curse words. So if you have kids around and it's in loudspeaker, I'm sorry in advance. If you don't like profanity, you're welcome to leave. If you do love profanity or if you don't mind it, you're welcome to stay. It's the way it is. So a few other rules. Mute yourself, please. I think you're all doing that. We're all used to that. Profanity is going to happen some way, shape, or form. We're going to cover 9 questions, 8 minutes per question. I'm going to have a timer next to me. There'll be a first ring at 6 minutes in and then 8 minutes in. Okay. So we need to be respectful of everyone's time and be able to move fast between each challenge without going too fast. I won't be that active on the chat. I won't be able to necessarily look at every question you have during the session. So if you have a question, let's wait until the end after we've reviewed the 9 topics, and I'll be able to look at them. I'll keep the Q&A to a minimum because I'm trying to cover as many topics as possible before that. And I will answer your questions if you have any over email. You can reply to the email, send me an email. After this session, I'm available to help you. And obviously, the recording will be available tomorrow in your inbox, as well as a bonus podcast episode. So you can re-listen to it. as many times as you want when you're walking your dog or cooking for your family or whatnot. So let's do this. The first person, the first maverick, the first risk taker, the first person who was courageous enough to submit the application is Alex Judd. Alex, you work for a tech PR agency. Can you unmute yourself and
Hi.
tell us who you are, what you do, and the specific challenge you have? And I'm going to start the timer now.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, my name's Alex Judd. Recently joined as head of impact and planning at it's a tech PR agency, both B2C and B2B. So it's all about getting a more strategic approach to PR and also proving that impact as well. And I think the biggest barrier to what I do and just the PR industry in general is that whether the CMO is our client, which is quite unlikely, is usually like a PR manager, the CMO just doesn't really care about PR. And PR isn't just media relations anymore. It's not just speaking to journalists. We do, pretty much anything under the sun of marketing. I truly believe that PR has the ability, because it's much more centered on people, and you can't just typically buy the space, so you earn that space through journalists, that we can deliver more powerful messaging, that we can really kind of lead that marketing strategy. However, and deservedly so, PR's got a really bad rap for just being absolutely full of bullshit, probably even more so than kind of marketing in general. So my challenge is, how do we, radically stand out to the CMO and be recognized as actually, serious strategic players in the business of marketing?
Thanks, Alex. And thanks for so succinctly explaining your problem and what you're doing. So thank you. And for being the first as well. So I think one of the wrong solutions would be to be kind of hell-bent in trying to change their mind and say, hey, CMO, I love digital PR and PR so much. You must listen to me. You must agree with my views, right? I think this is probably one of the toughest, if not the toughest thing a marketer, creator, and entrepreneur can do, is try to change people's mind. Almost impossible. So, in fact, the more you're going to go forcefully and tell a CMO, you must agree with me, the more they're actually going to take the other way around. That's what humans do. We like to have confirmation bias and like stick to our guns. The other wrong solution that I could see here is that you fall too much in love with the solution, which is PR, and not enough in love with the problem you're actually solving, the pain you're solving for the specific people, right? And look, I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying this is a risk. And I see that a lot. I fall into that so many times as well. So here's my advice. You need to give them what they want, and then you give them what they need. It's like the Trojan horse strategy. Yes, you must sometimes give them something that you don't necessarily agree with, because that's what they want, and then slowly introducing something else that is actually what they actually need. And that's a subtle difference, but it's major in marketing. So my advice to you would be to obsess over those CMOs, your target market, to understand of the folks who actually have bought from you recently, are those, like, why did they buy from you? What do they believe that you believe? And I wouldn't try to chase people who don't necessarily believe what you believe. I would chase people who already believe what you believe. I would chase people who believe that PR is one of the way they're going to get what they want. Trying to convince folks who don't agree with you is a long-term game, and I'm going to give you a few pointers there to make that happen, but that's not going to generate anything in the short term. Definitely not, right? So my advice would be to look back at those people that bought from you recently and think about, okay, what is the actual pain, the bleeding neck problem that we solve for them? And I'm talking about bleeding neck because it's not just a tiny little problem, like a tiny little bruise on your arm. It's actually something urgent that they must solve to reach the objective. It's part of their plan. They have money to solve that problem. This is the people you want to go after. And I would get away from the definition of CMO and think more about the pain that you're actually solving. And I know this is kind of a cliche, everyone says that, but that's actually the way to forget about PR for a second and think about, hey, wait a second. what does those customers have in common? What is it? What is the thread that unite them all? And usually it's always the same. It's a pain. It's a something that they want to solve. So if you merge that with the Trojan horse kind of strategy, giving them what they want first, you might find out that there is a few problems that you can solve pretty quickly using PR that is actually very much in line with what they want. And it might not be the sexiest problem, might not be the problem you love the most, but that doesn't matter. What matters is them, what they are thinking. So I'm going to stop here, and then I can give you a few pointers about the longer term game. Let me know if it makes sense so far.
Yeah, it all makes sense. And I think it's a very good point you're right in the sense that now I think about how I frame that problem, I immediately jump to change people's minds. So it's a very good point to kind of, strip it all the way back to that problem. And also, I think when you talk about what those customers have in common, typically it would either be ego. It would be that the CEO wants to be on TechCrunch, for example. All his mates read TechCrunch, or her mates read TechCrunch, and so they want to be there too. Or it's a big crisis. It's there's something, either it's looming or it's happening right now, and there's a shitstorm going on, and it needs to be managed.
So that's 6 minutes in. We have 2 more minutes. Okay, so that's very interesting. And so what I would try to do here is, how do you reach out to folks who have a crisis? And how do they find you? That's the bleeding neck, right? You don't need to convince them about anything. That's what they want right now. They want to solve that crisis. And what they want is to solve it right now. And then you can build a longer term relationship with them once they're there. So I wouldn't try necessarily in the short term, if you want to generate sales, I would try to be where they are, those people. They believe that PR can help them solve a very specific problem, and you have it. If you mix ego and if you mix a crisis happening, I think you have something that is quite, quote unquote, easy. You don't have to convince people to buy from you. You just need to be where those people are. So for the longer term, I would go at it from an oblique direction. You can't go directly at people and say PR is the right way to go, but you can go at it in an oblique way by touching on the subject without trying to convince them heads on. So show proof that it works, show proof of people who used to believe certain thing and then now believe something else. Use authority, quote unquote, influencers and experts who talk about it, and be willing to change your product and offer to match what they want. Again, it's not about you. It's about your market. And by repeating that over and over again for a long period of time, probably 6 months plus, you're going to start seeing stuff happening of people who say, hey, I used to believe that, and now, thanks to you, I believe this, right? But that's not as instant as we wish. Things take time, period, especially in marketing. Quick example, Southwest Airlines in the 70s had a huge reputation problem. Instead of going at it on a very direct way and saying, you must believe us, they went at it with doing ads with classical, 8 minutes, with classical music to basically infer the fact that they are classy, they're not cheap. And that actually worked. It took years, but that's going at it on an oblique way is usually a good way to go as well. So that's what I had for you, Alex. Was that helpful?
Yeah, that was helpful. Thank you. I think you're right in the sense of there's a couple of thought leadership, more kind of academic sort of thought leadership pieces we wanted to do around proving the real impact of PR. And I think you're right in framing that in that initial customer problem, as particularly potentially how something like how fame drives that is a real interest. So yeah, that's really helped guide me, Louis. Thank you.
Thanks, man. And thanks for being first. And thanks for submitting what you submitted. Very interesting. So I wanted to start with that problem that Alex mentioned, because I wanted to introduce the very big problem of marketing, which is this. We can't really change people's mind. We can only be there where people are actually seeking to change and the people who believe what we believe. So I'll go deeper into this minimum viable audience, minimum viable market idea over the course of this call. You'll see there's a few more people who have a similar problem. And hopefully, Alex and the others, you'll be able to pick up on more stuff. So second submission comes from Lucas Fadik, who's the CMO / co-founder of hardware.io. Are you here, Lucas?
Yes, I am. Hi, Louis.
Hey.
Hello, everyone.
So tell us more about who you are, what you do, and the specific challenge that you have, please.
So, as you mentioned, I'm CMO of Hardware. We are a Czech-based company, and we focus on designing and manufacturing IoT devices, which we install with our partners in various industries to digitize them. For example, we digitize scaling systems. We also digitize agriculture and etc. We have a very, very wide big number of industries we can digitize with our devices. So we are not in specific industry market. And my challenge is to define specific steps to find new partners in these industries, and can partners from different industries or in the same industries as we digitize them in Czech Republic or different country and other countries.
Nice. Thank you. So yes, you have this, in my own words, you sell those Internet of Things devices, right? That solve specific problems. And the problem that you have is that you sell those on a lot of different industry and sectors. And it seems like, fuck, where do I start? This doesn't seem to be a thread between all of those people. It means we have so many segments and you probably feel a bit overwhelmed. You don't know where to go first.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So the wrong solution, and again, I don't blame you, I'm just saying in general, the wrong solution for that type of problem would be to think that you do indeed have too many segments. That's not really true. I'll tell you why. Another wrong solution would be to obsess over a demographic or firmographic elements to say, well, we must pick an industry, we must pick a specific role to have a particular segment that we can go after, a minimum viable market, right? Again, that's not really it. You might be angry about this problem for a while. You might stay in your own head, and that's also the wrong solution. But I know you're not doing this because you're reaching out, which is fantastic. And then there's another problem that could arise with this is switching back and forth between markets. And I see that a lot where you pick one and then you're not too sure, you don't really like it. So you pick another one and it's like snip, snap, snip, snap. I don't know if some of you are a fan of The Office. There's this scene with, anyway, Michael Scott does. Anyway, so that's basically what people sometimes feel like. And again, that's not the right solution. So let me give you the right solution. What I would advise you to do, and again, that's going to be recorded, you don't have to take notes. Make a list of all your customers that you have had, recent customers in particular, and sort them out by using 4 parameters. One is joy. Do you like working with this person or this company? Does it give you energy or do they drain your energy? We all have those clients that are actually, burning our energy more than they give us. Joy is super important because you are the founder. You want to stay there for the long run. If you only look at your client and past clients in terms of money made, you're going to miss the mark. I've made that mistake before, so that's what I'm telling you. Second, profitability, not only in terms of money, but time spent. Do they give, is the return on investment positive compared to the energy, the money, and everything that you put into it? 3 is access. When it comes to people who match this description, do you have access to more of them? Meaning, do you know a lot of people in the automobile industry? Do you know a lot of people who are CMOs? Is it easy for you to go to a group on Facebook or LinkedIn and say, hey, friends, here is another product? Is it easy for you to I don't know, do you have a podcast with this audience already, a newsletter? That's super important because when you go to market, when you want to attract more people, that's also another one. And then finally, do they have a bleeding neck problem, right? Out of the clients that you have, who are the ones who couldn't wait to pay for your solution because they had such an important problem? They just couldn't wait. They had to pick something. And I think unconsciously, you will know those people when you look back at your spreadsheet that you're putting together. So that's the first step. Second step, talk to those people. Remove your salesperson hat, put your journalist hat, and try to understand and look back at the story between you and them. Meaning, you ask them, take me back to the very first time you thought about potentially hiring a solution like ours. What happened? What was the trigger? And I visualize it to be some sort of a checkpoint, like with a road with many checkpoints, where you basically try to map out the journey that they took before buying from you, the decision that they took. So you want to ask what was the trigger. You want to ask what research they made. You know, did they look at other competitors or was it just you? Did they look at competitive alternatives, meaning not direct competitors, but did they think about maybe doing it themselves? Did they think about hiring an intern to do it? Did they think about, hiring an agency? I don't know. They'll tell you. And then ask them, what's the one thing that made you confident to go with us and not someone else? And my favorite question that no one talks about, I love this one. What cliche, do you hate the most in our industry or in the type of stuff that we do or the type of people that you work with? What is the thing that you hate the most when working with your type of company? That's going to give you a lot of ideas. So once you have those two, you're going to start seeing threads, guaranteed. There is always a thread. And this is the name of the game. You need to use your brain. The human brain is beautiful at this, very good at this, which is to see patterns, to identify patterns, a pain that is in common, something that unites them all. And that's the core of it. So then you're going to have people who want X because they need to solve X. That's your core segment. And maybe you're going to have only 30% of people who fit that profile, customers. But those people are going to be the core of the people who give you the most joy, who spend the most money with you, who recommend you the most. Those should be the people you seek to serve the most. And 6 minutes. And the other thing is once you have that, then look at the type of companies, industries, firmographic, whatever it is, who then tend to fit the description above, meaning they suffer from this, they want that. Who are the type of people who tend to want those things? You see, so it's the other way around. Again, it's a subtle difference, but it's a massive difference. You don't obsess over firmographic and demographics. You obsess over what they want to do, and then you find group of people who are part of the same group who desperately want this. Quick example. I interviewed someone on the podcast recently who said that they had an accounting software. They were struggling to find the right segment because they had the same problem than you. They found out that the ones who couldn't wait to buy from them, who really loved them, were SMBs who were afraid to go to jail because they failed to submit the tax information. And those people didn't have an accounting team. And you see, accounting teams would relieve that pain. So the segment that jumped out when they talked to them was this segment. And you can see the power of this. As soon as you switch from this point of view, it becomes quote unquote easy to target them and to have campaign ideas and whatnot. So this is the kind of thinking that I would really recommend you to use. And again, the truth is not in your head. The truth lies in your market's head. And if you do it this way, I would suspect that it would work and you're going to start finding some interesting segment. Does it make sense?
Yeah, of course, it does make sense.
Any?
I'm just thinking about it and understand it well. It's about find the joy, have access to them, find the pain who they are trying to solve, and have enough market to make a profit. Yeah.
And so that's going to take some guts to do. It's not easy because it means saying no to some. But excellence in any extremes always imply a trade-off, right? You're going to have to really focus on one particular segment because you're going to be seen as an expert, and you need to think about what are you going to miss out on if you don't specialize and if you don't go further. Because your product, Internet of Things, that's what it is. It's the solution. Just like Alex's PR, it's a solution to a problem. What if IoT doesn't exist? What would they use, right? And they will still have this problem. And so that's the way to flip it and to really put the attention back on your market.
Thank you.
You're welcome, buddy. All righty. Gonna take a sip of tea just to chill a bit. Everyone should do this. I don't know what time it is, but where you are. Michael is doing it. Thank you, Michael. All right. Nate Reader, if I'm not pronouncing your name badly, can you unmute yourself And tell us who you are, what you do, and the specific challenge that you have today. And I'm very excited for yours because it's very interesting.
Nice, thanks. So, bonjour.
Bonjour.
I'm Nate Ritter, technical entrepreneur. And my kind of 5 minutes of fame was that I popularized the hashtag, but generally speaking, I'm a chief technology officer for a brokerage company for hotels. And we work with events like Formula One and festivals like Lollapalooza and things like that in the United States. So what I do is I've created a side company and we've started a business which offers travelers a wholesale rate at the hotel. And this is a rate that people don't really understand that exists, that they have access to, but most people are kind of afraid to kind of take the one leap, which is just having a login somewhere that gives them this access. And also most places that offer wholesale rates also add on their commission or margin to the hotels. So we don't do that. We're no commission, no margin, and we're fully transparent on what the actual wholesale rate is. And we offer an annual subscription instead. And it's after you pay the annual subscription, it's all you can eat or book for that year. We have a Chrome extension because most of our early customers who used our booking engine were using Chrome. So we use that and it does two things for us. And the first thing it does is it reduces friction for onboarding by utilizing social logins. So people were really hesitant to say, sign up with a username and a password. So we just said, well, why not use a social login? And they just came in droves. So well, no difference from our point of view. But that is required for us. We can't publicize wholesale rates because of industry agreements for this type of inventory. So we need to have a login. So we reduced the friction with that. But the second thing it did is it gave us the ability to, when the user is searching for rooms over Booking.com, Expedia, Google Hotels, Hotels.com, any of those sites and all of their country-specific ones, we pop over a small notification window. And when we find a cheaper rate, a wholesale rate, which doesn't always exist, but when it does, we pop over and say, you can book that price on our site. The purchasing is gated by the annual fee, but you can see the rates for free. So you just log in and download the extension and use it. And as you browse around, it pops open.
So I'm going to stop you right there because we need to be mindful of the time.
Yes.
Amazing idea. So roomsteals.com, right? If anyone wants to check that out. It's a great idea in order to save a lot of money on travel. And what you want is a sniper go-to-market. You don't want this bullshit of, you need to test all the channels and every single channel is possible so that you might find one that fits you and you might find customers. I agree with you. You mentioned that in your application and I very much agree with that. This is bullshit. I hate this advice. This is useless. And I'm going to give you a much better way to do it. You don't want to target everyone who just loves hotel rooms and goes to hotels. That's not the way to go.
Right. And
you can't expect people to trust you the first time they hear from you. You can't expect people to trust you when they go on your website. So same as before, same as the last two submissions and two answers. I would obsess over your market. I would look back at the people who actually paid for it, if you have any. And I would talk to them, remove your sales person hat on and put your journalist hat on. And I would really just spend the time to soak it in and understand what do they have in common, all of those people. Because I can sense that people that you seek to serve are not just infrequent travelers who travel once every year. They're not just people who go on holidays and that's like, you need people who really have a pain, which is, I want to save a lot of money on my hotel rooms because I spend so much every year. Who are those people? Are they business travelers? Is there actually companies who spend so much on fucking hotel rooms every year for their people that they have to save tens of thousands? Who is so much in pain that they can't wait for your solution? This is your minimum viable market. Again, I can't guess that for you. I'm not going to have the pretension to tell you this is it. You're going to have to find out yourself and take the time to talk to those people. If you don't have customers yet, try to talk to people who are very close to becoming customers or customers of solutions that are very similar than yours. Making hypotheses, trying to find people who tend to suffer from those problems, based on the hypotheses you're going to make, right? So that's the number one thing. And I would ask them the same question I mentioned before. I would ask more stuff. Who influenced them? What type of people do they look up to? I'm not talking about the bullshit Instagram influencer stuff. I'm talking about genuinely people who influence them, or newspapers or podcasts or YouTube channels or whatever that they are paying attention to. And I would try again to find patterns, right? Again, this is why I hate this like test everything bullshit approach of go-to-market, because the answer lies within your market. They will tell you where they spend their time. They will tell you who they pay attention to. They will tell you the last time they purchased a hotel room, exactly the process they took. I searched on Google. I went to Trivago because I remember Trivago. They have so many fucking TV ads that they're everywhere. I click, that's what you need to hear. And then you're going to find, and you're going to pick between 3 lanes. There isn't 19 channels. There is basically 3. It's either performance, which is basically paid ads, it's content, or it's virality. And when you start, it's either one of those. Meaning, can you find a way to cheaply acquire people through paid ads when they're searching maybe for Trivago and be there in the second position or whatever you bid, so that you say, hey, you're going to be ripped off by Trivago. Is it content? One of those 3. It's going to be one of those 3. Or is it the product itself that bring more people because maybe they can pay less than $59 a year by referring 10 others or whatever it is, right? So those are the 3 kind of mechanism. And the other 6 minutes, the other thing about proof is don't assume your scale. So show it, show testimonials, and don't show bullshit 2-line testimonials. Show massive testimonials, show video testimonials, show like true, authentic, non-scripted reviews from people who love what you do. And again, from the people that you interviewed, from the people that the minimum viable market that you seek to serve. The design is very also important, right? People perceive design in some way, shape, or form. So again, I can't guess that for you. I would show your website to people who fit roughly your market and just ask for their unfiltered opinion and fucking go at it. What do you hate? What do you like? I personally seen your website. I have a few things to say, but I'm probably not on your target market. And I don't have the pretension to tell you this is how you should change things. However, your market will. So don't guess, lean on your market. They have the answer. This is the beauty of marketing, right? And authority as well is important with using quote unquote influencers or experts or people that tend to influence them and whatnot. So to go back to the initial question, you've used, I think, you've been featured in a site and brought you a few users. I can suspect that there might be better ways for you, but again, it's probably you're going to unlock that knowledge by talking to as many people as you can, and you're going to have to be ruthless. You're going to have to really pick a tiny portion of the audience to start with, and then you can expand later. But focus on a small thing first. It's called the bowling pin strategy, right? Quick example, and then I'll shut up. This microphone is a Shure M71B or whatever the fuck. The reason why I bought it is because I wanted to have a more of a radio voice. And because I listened to fucking like Joe Rogan or whatever, I'm like, how the fuck do they have such a nice voice? And like I have this like more high pitch and whatever. And so I've used that and it seems to work a bit. But again, this is kind of the thing that happened is they should market this microphone for people who want to have a more lower voice, because I know a lot of people who bought it for the same reason. And so they should obsess over that group. That group will buy. And yes, they might tend to be podcasters. Yes, they might tend to be professional YouTube creators. But the overarching problem is this one. And again, I didn't guess that. That's just from my own experience thinking about it. So was that helpful?
Yes, because that's, you basically tapped into it. I mean, the thing is that we don't have a bleeding neck problem here, right? Like in the sense of general travel. And so we're trying to figure out like, where is that and who has that problem? And I think I've been resisting going towards the small businesses just because I feel like they're going to have like a different request, but the people who have been using the site the most have been small businesses that need to travel. And so they're getting the most value out of it for sure, without a doubt.
So then maybe it's not the funniest for you to start with, but maybe that's the right first group. And then once you have enough capital and you can play with things a bit more, then offer something for everyone. And again, obviously, you know that you need to be mindful of what's happening right now and the trends, and like travel is a bit of a fucking crazy Anyway, you know that. I'm going to teach you that. And congrats on making the hashtag popular, whatever the fuck. Like that's
And also, I'm sorry to everybody. So for that.
Yeah, listen, it's like
cool,
anything.
and
it's a tool, and some people use it badly, some people use it well. So thank you for submitting this. I very much enjoy what you said about the fucking test everything bullshit. I agree with you. So thank you, Nate.
You.
And let's welcome our fourth maverick risk taker who's willing to be roasted. No, not roasted at all. Amélie Berens, are you here? I know you're here. I've seen you before. Can you unmute yourself, please? Hi. Please unmute yourself. You're already unmuted. Tell us who you are, what you do, and the specific challenge that you like to solve, please.
So I'm from Belgium. I'm a customer experience consultant. It's been 10 years I'm in the industry, digital industry. So I'm not doing customer experience since the beginning, but let's say that I evolved to there. I'm very passionate about my work. And that's why 1 year ago, I stepped out of my comfort zone and I became loud about this passion. Through a content strategy on social, through a podcast, and through a newsletter. And it started last year, January. Then you know what happened, 2020, and actually it helped me to find a job because all my contract collapsed. Bref, it was the best moment actually to step out of my comfort zone because actually I survived 2020. My business survived to 2020 thanks to that.
Congrats.
So that's the good thing. And it was very confusing to build everything so fast. And now I'm basically confused about my audience because I raised attention, I got interest, I got engagement. But I would like to put my business into another scheme and not really as a consultant now, you know, a daily rate and et cetera, but building something more like a digital product, digital service. And I'm confused about the audience because I have a very, very broad audience, not in terms of figures, but in terms of interest and profiles. And so, voilà, that's my challenge. I feel like I'm getting there, but I need some help to figure what I can do to understand better the audience I actually attracted with my content.
Thank you. I love the little French words here and there.
Yeah, that's my other tongue as well.
Nice touch. You and I are in a very similar situation. We've done something very similar, and congrats on doing it. Congrats on giving before expecting to take anything in return. And you should post your website in the chat once we're done because it's you have a strong brand. Like you've built something interesting. I like the picture on it. It's quite nice. So congrats on doing this and taking some fucking risks because that's what it takes. So how to create a product from the audience that you have? You could stay in your head, within your head and just think about it and get frustrated. But I know you're not going to do that. Mm-hmm. You could ask people directly what you should sell. You shouldn't do that whatsoever. People have no idea. They are very good at telling the problems that they have. They can't come up with ideas yourself. So don't do that. But I know how tough it is to try to read the label when you are inside the fucking jar, right? And I know what it is, right? Mm-hmm. So it's difficult. My biggest advice, the first step would be to remove yourself from your brand and treat your brand as a consulting gig. And I know it sounds a bit weird, but you are not your business. And by removing yourself emotionally from it or trying to, you're going to start seeing things a bit differently. Amélie, the CX specialist, is not Amélie, the person. This is two different entities. And by removing yourself like that, I do that a lot. It helps to see things a bit differently. That sounds a bit like a gimmick, so let me just go further. I would select 10 people who know you very well. So ex-colleagues, clients, people you have a strong relationship with, and I would send them an email and ask them one question. What do you think is my unique ability? What do you think is the one thing I'm the best in the world at? Right? Mm-hmm. Weird question. It might be a bit uncomfortable. Please do it. You're going to be surprised. Even people who don't know each other, they are going to come up with answers that are very, very close to each other. Like you're going to see themes appearing just like that. That's going to give you two things. Clarity and confidence. Confidence because receiving 10 emails back of people telling you you're the best in the fucking world is awesome. Clarity because you're going to start seeing the first parameter of what you need next, which is your unique ability, the strength, the thing that you are very good at that people notice, that you can use as much as possible without being tired, that gives you energy more than it takes you, and that you tend to improve on over and over again. And then I would look back at all the projects you've done in the past, all the things you've been involved in, and try to look at threads as well and applying the same process. What brought me the most joy? What are the things that I love the most? For me personally, when I look back at all the podcast episodes I've recorded, one topic just shines through, which is positioning differentiation. The projects that I've worked for in the past, for example, with Hotjar, my previous employer, positioning project was the one I liked the most. And you see, it sounds obvious from an outside perspective, but when you're in it, it's tough to see. So look back at that, and then I would ask and send surveys to your audience. I would interview them as well and try to do the same exercise I gave a few submissions ago, which is rank them by joy, access, whether they can pay you. That's a very important one. Students can't pay you most of the time. Whether they can say yes themselves, very important. If they have to ask for their boss for permission to buy something, not as good. And whether they're in pain, whether they have the bleeding neck problem. And my advice to you would be then to pick a very narrow audience that fit this description and then build something for them first. Don't try to cover the entire audience with a product or service. Go very narrow. And again, to talk about my example quickly, the reason why I built Stand the Fuck Out, the program, is because I've done this exercise and I've realized that business consultant like you, small agency, like company founders, they have the most of this bleeding neck problem. They want to stand out, but they don't have a lot of resources and the clutter is everywhere online. They can say yes, they don't need to ask their boss, and they do have cash, not a crazy amount, but they do have money to spend. And when you position it this way, you see it's obvious. But I had to go through that exercise myself to get clarity. So it's the intersection of the money you can make, the value that you have, the pain that they have, and your unique ability. The intersection of that should give you something very interesting, which is the thing that you're the best in the world at, that you can get paid for, that a few people will absolutely fucking love, and then you can move on to something else. I'll shut up for a second and ask you if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much. Now I'm wondering how I can step out of this story to step back and look at it, not being Amélie the consultant, but Amélie, the consultant of myself. That's a tough exercise that I guess I need to give some thought about it, except if you have a tip for that as well.
Well, it takes a bit of time. It takes a bit of practice. I do basically put it in my calendar as if it's another client.
Okay.
My marketing and my work. It's not all the time that I do this, but when I feel a bit overwhelmed, when I feel like, I can't see the label anymore, I step out and I say, okay, what would Louis do? And it sounds a bit stupid, but it does work, at least for me, because it's this alter ego helps you to kind of dissociate yourself. So it's not easy. You just are not going to be able to do it just like that. But that's a little tip.
Yeah, well, no, it makes sense. I mean, it's basically the kind of work I do for my clients. It's just frustrating that I'm not able to apply all my methods on myself. Well, I will.
It's okay. It's normal. It's normal. Everyone has this fucking problem, which is exactly why, I went through it. And so don't blame yourself for it. Absolutely, it's absolutely normal. That's how humans are built. And so what you're doing right now is the right thing, which is to reach out and seek help from outside, because you can't do it on your own. So,
sure. Yeah.
But you have the right mindset, the right attitude. Take more risk. Don't be afraid to hear like people saying, "Oh, I'm not too sure," whatever. Like follow this butterfly feeling in your stomach. When you have something I'm not too sure about shipping, ship this thing. Don't dilute it. Don't make the curry less spicy. Fucking go for it, because what you need to fear most, and that, is obscurity, not being mocked or being ignored. Obscurity is the biggest fucking enemy here. Yeah. Which is why you need to stand the fuck out.
Sure.
Even more. And I can see a lot of people have complimented you on your website. So I wasn't the only one.
And so some people can relate. Okay, all right. Sorry. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're very welcome, and thank you for submitting this. Let me take a sip of tea again. And thanks everyone for staying and listening to my rambling. Only 7 people left since I say that there will be profanity. So I love you all. Thank you for staying. The 7 people we could listen to the recording after. Okay. The 5th submitter, the maverick that I want to call and explain to us about their challenge is Andre. That's why I ask people to tell me how to pronounce their last name. Andre Skorstro. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, that's probably me.
Yes, it is. I'm very sorry about butchering it. So tell us about what you do, who you are, and the problem you want to solve, please.
Thank you for this opportunity.
You're welcome.
My name is Andre from the Netherlands. I organize live events. So it's been a great year. We organize live sport events, and the challenge, the problem, we're diving into our marketing plans now for the next few months. But the challenge is we have a generic message what our brand stands for. We evaluated that from some research, but we're thinking about how can we adjust our messaging for people with various motivations who are doing our events. So I made an example. If you have, for instance, a gym where people go to sport, some people go there with a motivation to lose weight. Other people go there to get buff, get their beach body and get strong and fit. And maybe other people go there for social reasons. So if you have various messaging for the various parts of the audience, how could you organize that in a way, or is that a good way, without conflicting? For instance, if you have people who are only trying to get fitter, stronger, and already have a good, like you, who have a good fitness level already, will they maybe disengage if they see a lot of ads or content about weight loss, for instance? So I don't know if my question is clear.
It does. So the problem is really how do you message when you have multiple motivations, multiple audiences, or it seems like you have multiple motivations, and how do you make sure that people don't disengage if you tell them something they don't really care about? So the wrong solution there would be to kind of overthink the process and be stuck and never really do it. I know you won't do that, but there is a tendency to do this. Another one would be to never test that thing, right? And to just assume that let's go for that, and we never really look back at results. I know you won't do that either. So I think the biggest thing here is to assume that people with a motivation don't necessarily have another one. I think this belief that when you want to lose weight, you don't necessarily want to gain muscle, for example, is probably a false one. So I would say that you're overthinking this a bit, and I would give you some pointers. Start at the beginning, meaning what is the very first thing you want them to do? I assume that once, let's say they see an ad from you, you don't necessarily expect them to show up at an event straight away after. So what is the very first thing you want them to do? What is the very first step in the journey? If they don't know you, they don't trust you, how the fuck do you make sure that they hear a bit about what you are and what you do? And so sometimes it could be a very simple quiz where you ask them, actually, before I tell you what we do, tell us about you. What do you want to do? What is the biggest motivation that you have with the gym? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to whatever? So that works quite well, right? You can do quizzes like that in order to, before assuming anything. And in return, you can give them some sort of a free audit or whatever to say, hey, you are over 40, you want to lose weight, you've had trouble with your food, whatever. Let us give you exactly the plan that you need for the next 30 days to do that, right? So that's an easy way. I mean, quote unquote easy. When I say easy, it's easier. The other thing to do is probably to look at the proportion of people who do fit the category that you have and actually prioritize? Is it actually 33%, like a third, or do you have 80% of people who actually want to lose weight? That's the common thread. And you have 80% of people who basically love you for the same reason, Then I would disregard the 20%. Yes, you could potentially miss out on a few people if you don't do it, but chances are that they will also like it, right? And you know what? Since you're doing ads and you're probably on Facebook and all of that, like Facebook ads and Facebook algorithm does that almost for you. You test multiple messages and they automatically kind of show it to the right people based on interaction and engagement. So the algorithm kind of solve it for you, So I wouldn't sweat it necessarily this way. And again, I would think about it from what I've said a few times already in this call about the market. Who are really the ones that are the most in pain? Are they the ones who want to stay in shape? Are they the ones who want to lose weight? Who are those people? And then based on that motivation, what is their demographic, right? And it could happen that depending on the motivation, their demographics are very different. If I want to lose weight, maybe I tend to be, I don't know, I'm coming up with shitty stuff right now. They might be female, they might be over 50, they might live outside the cities, tend to at least. So you can see common trends based on motivation. And this way you can show messages to two different audiences that won't necessarily overlap, right? So that's another possibility. And finally, David was nothing without Goliath. What I mean by this is a common thread and something you can rally everyone around, no matter what their motivation is the status quo, the reason why they are in pain right now. What are you fighting against? What is the status quo that you want them to fight against so that they go over the bridge, go to the other side? What is the old game versus the new game, And that's a very nice way to kind of position things, because you don't even have to explain what you do. You just have to explain what you're fighting against, and people will infer and kind of assume what you do in response. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and if you would have to make a choice on a platform where you cannot target various audiences, for instance, if you would have to boil this down to make a TV ad or an outdoor campaign, how would you proceed?
Do you mean which channel to choose?
Yeah, for if you have a platform where you cannot, like if you use mass media to promote, for instance, the gym.
I would go for one message and I would go specific. I wouldn't try to dilute everything and plug all your message into one. We help you lose weight and then we also do this. No, I would pick the strongest and would go fucking all in with one thing that is actually very specific, because don't worry, you're not going to get emails or phone calls to say, I actually don't want to lose weight. Why do you have a fucking ads of people who want to lose weight? It's just, it's not going to happen. So go for the message that seems to work the best on smaller tests that you've done. Go for the message that seems to stick the most. Go for the highest proportion of people who want to do that thing, and disregard the rest, because the more you focus on one thing, the more people will remember. The more you add new secondary messages, the less people will process every message. So you have even less chance to be remembered and seen. So stick to one thing and go fucking all in with it. That has way higher chance to succeed than trying to do like an ad with 5 different messages.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And thanks for submitting this. Very interesting business model as well. I wish you the best of luck with the current climate. I hope things will settle down quickly so everyone can run in the mud again, because that's what you do, right?
Yeah, definitely. Right. Yeah. Thanks. We're also looking forward to it.
Yeah,
thanks.
I can bet. All right, man. Thank you. Okay. The 6th Maverick and Risk-Taker who submitted something is Hunter Moonshot. Hunter, are you here? Are you in the call? If so, can you unmute yourself? It's a shame if he's not here, because that's actually a good fucking idea. Too bad. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the next, but then I'll pick someone else who submitted something and I didn't email them, but I picked them. Just why not? Okay, Adam, I know you're here. Adam Greco, can you unmute yourself?
Hey, Louis.
Hey, Adam, good to talk to you again. So tell us, who you are, what you do, and the specific problem that you have, please.
Yes, thanks so much. My name is Adam Greco. I work for a company called Search Discovery, and we have created a software product that helps companies implement tools like Adobe and Google Analytics faster, based on 20 years worth of consulting experience. And the challenge that I put to Louis is we're in a unique position that I think might apply to, maybe some of you as well, where we're actually creating a new technology that doesn't really exist. No one's ever done. We call it an analytics management system. And so the challenge I had for Louis is we don't have any competitors. We're trying to do something that's never been done before. So far, we've done all the traditional marketing things, website, webinars, we do demos, all that stuff. But I always like Louis' ideas of things that are unique and different. So my challenge is, what do you do when you have nothing to compare yourself to and you're really trying to educate the market on something that they don't know that they need, but you know that they need? So that's my challenge.
Thanks, Adam. Very nice explanation. And you were one of the first guests on the podcast a few years ago, actually. I think in the first year of the podcast. So thank you for showing up again and submitting this. I love your question because it's about category creation, right? Or category design, which is a subject I love to rant about. I'm going to tell you why. This idea of creating a new category is very popular right now. Even consultants, independent freelancers want to create their own wares and their own category. Because who doesn't want to be in their own blue ocean with no fucking sharks around them to eat them? They have the entire market for them and everyone comes to them. And, that's a beautiful thing, right? I mean, you don't have to compete against anyone. That's why it's so sexy, category creation. So you hear those stories like Drift, who created their own conversational marketing category, and they've raised $100 million to do that with a seasoned founder who has 4 exits under his belt and connections and more influence than probably anyone else in the tech industry. It's easy to look at that and say, hey, let's do the same. You can guess from my answer so far, I'm not a big fan of that approach. And the reason why it's usually doesn't work or usually is not the right fit is because most of the time category creation case studies are in fact subcategory creations or just subcategories. In the book Blue Ocean Strategy, they mentioned this the French company called Seb, which created this air fry maker, which use less oil than traditional fry maker. But it's still using fucking oil. It's not a new category. It's a fry maker. Everyone knows what a fry maker is. And they lean on that existing category to create a subcategory to say, hey, you're going to get fry making, system, but just with slightly less oil, right? Mm-hmm. That's one thing that is happening quite a lot. And the other thing is, it requires more time, more resources, and more patience that you can ever imagine. There's been a research done in the book, mentioned in the book Play Bigger on category creation. They said it takes around 6 to 10 years for a category to be created, meaning for people to start understanding what it is, start using the word, start talking about it to their friends and whatnot. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very difficult for a few more reasons, but I'm not going to rant forever. So my question to you would be, are you on truth? Are you really true to yourself when you think that this is really a new software that doesn't exist? No other companies have done that before. There's no name for it, or there's no subcategory that you can fit into. Are you sure that this is brand new, right? So that's the first question I have.
Yeah, I think we're closest aligned to tag management technology. So we've been kind of doing what you're saying is we've been saying we build upon tag management. And the good story is that our company actually created a tag management system that was purchased by Adobe 10 years ago. So we have a track record of building technology that's been acquired. Nice. So that's what we have been doing, is kind of saying this is tag management 2.0, which I think does help people kind of understand. Yes. But being in the middle of the pandemic, it is tough to have something that's a new product. In many cases, we actually wish and beg and plead that we would have a competitor, because then people would say, oh, well, I need to have A or B. But right now they're like, do I really need A if there is no B?
Okay, fantastic. So thank you for that. So yes, I would suspect then that the game you're playing is a niche market game and it's not really a new category game. So, but what I mean by this is that you are leaning against a category that already exists, which is tag management, but you're improving it drastically. for a specific group of people. And I know I've been repeating myself in the call, but that's what I would really obsess about. Mm-hmm. Who cares about this product the most? Who has a bleeding neck problem that you can solve? Who has money to pay? Who trusts you? Who do you have access to? All of that questions. Like, that's absolutely fucking critical to ask, because the only way you can actually win is to really have this small minimum viable market associated with a category that already exists or subcategory, and then the value that you provide. And then things become a bit easier once you obsess over those customers. So I would talk to the recent customer that you had from this tool, and I would really make the list of like their wants, their needs, the triggers, the type of firmographics that match. Are they business analysts? Are they whatever? Are they IT managers? Whatever. And I would really then devise a go-to-market strategy just for them. I would forget about the rest. I would use a barreling pin strategy. Once you have that pin knocked over, then you can focus on the next pin. I would really say no to the rest and obsess over them. So who influenced them? Where do they spend their time? What do they care about? What are their problems? Do they discover this type of product on Google or whatever? My suspicion, is that your market is actually probably folks who already use a tag management system, but they want something else, something new or something better for whatever reason, potentially. And so you can lean on that knowledge. When I was at Hotjar, the positioning work that we've redone, we understood that nearly like more than 90% of Hotjar users were actually using Google Analytics in complement. Mm-hmm. And so we position everything against that, saying, hey, yes, traditional web analytics tool like Google Analytics tell you a few things about your website, but they can't tell you everything, and they can't tell you what people really do on your website. And by leaning against that, that puts a frame of reference, and it's much easier than, quote unquote, creating a new category. So I would do that, start small, interview those people, and really devise a plan where you can be everywhere for that small market. It's much better to build fame inside a tiny market than building fame inside of the analytics market, which is absolutely ginormous. So the first step is the most crucial one. If you can nail that minimum viable market, things should happen in a much better way. And just a quick example as well. Nintendo, for example, started selling playing cards in 1889, more than a century ago. And when they launched the Nintendo Entertainment System a century after that, in the US, brand new market, people knew about video games, but mostly arcade games. They went and they didn't go full force into the US. They went to New York City, and they did a grassroots campaign there. And they started there to test the market and then moved on. And this is kind of what I mean. If Nintendo does it, I think you can do it. So based on what you said, it sounds like you're absolutely on the right track, and you have proven track record of having done that, and you're very experienced. I would even dare to call you an influencer in the analytics industry. So I'm pretty sure you'll nail that. But yes, that would be my advice to you.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Was it helpful?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Thanks, Adam. Okay. So we have, I think, 3 to go. And we're on time. So David Fastuca, are you here? Did you survive the hour so far? If so, please unmute yourself. If not, okay, you're not here. It's a shame. Shame. Okay, moving on. The last one I had, and then I'll pick people at random or answer questions. Richard Fairs. Richard, are you here?
Hi, Louis. I am here. Good to
Hey, man. How are you?
Yeah, good. And hi to everybody on the call. So mine's a little bit different. So, so I'm Richard Fairs. I'm a marketer with 20 years experience, but I'm currently out of work, having been made redundant in August. So while I've picked up a couple of temporary roles and I'm very busy with homeschooling at the moment, I'm definitely on the lookout for the next kind of step in my career. So my challenge is, how do I make myself stand out in what is at the moment a very crowded market with lots of people in a similar position to me, I guess, and going for the same roles. And I guess connected to that, in this type of market, and when you're trying to market yourself for jobs, how radical should I be looking to be? How radical can I be? and where can I kind of, I guess, what formats and what platforms can I use to get my message across and help myself stand out?
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Where are you from exactly in the UK?
I'm living in London, but I'm from a place called Chesterfield in the north of England.
I've been living in Ireland for 10 years, and I'm only starting now to recognize different accents, British accents. So
yeah,
anyway.
Mine's a bit different.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you for submitting that question. Sorry to hear that you've been made redundant and homeschooling plus job searching and all of that. I know it's tough, so I'll try to help you as much as I can, and hopefully folks in the chat might have other ideas for you, because that's one of my favorite subjects as well. So the wrong, I believe, in marketing in particular, it doesn't apply to other type of jobs, but we're marketers, aren't we? The more you can take risks, the better. And I know it sounds a bit crazy, but just like anything we talked about before, you need to fear obscurity. And as marketers, we must show that we are marketers. We are taking some risk. We are being creative. We understand our audience and whatnot. And that does apply to you. My advice, first of all, is to treat your job search as a go-to-market strategy. Your CV is long as fuck. You have plenty of experience, so you know your stuff. I would really treat that as a go-to-market strategy, meaning pick the market that you want to obsess over. Meaning, what are the top 20 companies, top even like 10, where you're like you would dream to work for them. You love their product, you're already using it, or you've used their service before, you know they're good. You have friends who work for them, they're very good, or you admire them. I would start with that, and then I would pimp the fuck out of your LinkedIn profile, right? I would treat it as a page, as a landing page. I would remove things that you don't want there. I would clean it up. I wouldn't necessarily focus on too much, like anything. Like I mentioned before, the more stuff you add, the less people will pay attention to every single thing. So maybe remove stuff that you don't want to be there anymore. Craft your description so that you show that you can write, that you show you understand people and whatnot, and really obsess over that. So LinkedIn is absolutely, in our field, a place to be. If you're listening to this recording in 5 years' time, maybe LinkedIn is dead, but for now, absolutely LinkedIn. Then you can create a landing page about yourself and a website even, and show what you're made of as well. If the industry you seek to be employed in is, let's say, a tech company, make it look like a tech website. If it's I don't know, if you're into fish and you want to fucking work for a company that sells fish, you get the point. Show that this is what you can do. The other thing is your portfolio. Show real fucking achievements and real fucking failures. That sounds a bit weird. I would go for radical authenticity and truth here. Show that you've learned from your own mistakes. There's too many marketing CVs that are like, I've single-handedly increased conversion rate by 138.5%. Bullshit. Just tell us exactly what you've done. I don't care about that. Like, I don't care that you've done this. I want to know what you've learned. I want to know the mistakes you've made and what you've learned out of it, So it's tough to do, I know, because most CVs and most advice you're going to read online are basically telling you to create a CV that looks like everyone else's. But I would beg to differ. If you want to fight obscurity, this is the shot. This is what I would do. And then I would go after the companies, but in a oblique way. I would identify folks that you can talk to inside, and I would create a podcast, a newsletter. I would just interview them for the sake of creating content around the industry that you love, and build relationship this way, and go at it in an oblique way. Don't say, hey, I'm looking for a job. Start by first saying, hey, I admire what you do at this company. I love what you do there. Can I talk to you for 30 minutes for a podcast? It's for a newsletter. It's so that I can publish it on LinkedIn because I want to get visibility. Whatever it takes to get a foot in the door there. Because guaranteed, if they like you, and you're a very approachable guy, so I'm pretty sure they will like you, they will, in return, ask you, so what do you do anyway? And we're looking for this. And they might talk to you about jobs that they are not advertising. So it's not a foolproof strategy, and it takes a bit of time, but I believe that's what it takes to stand out. Other ideas would be to do tear downs or deconstructing strategies of companies that you admire and showing what you're made of, saying, hey, I've seen you doing this and this is what you could do, whatever. I've hired people when I used to hire people. I've hired people who sent us 20-page reports on this is what I would do if I was in your team. Now that sounds like free work, and I understand that could be a bit like that. You don't want to overwork yourself, but showing what you're made of and kind of solving problems in public like that is critical. So that's kind of overall what I have for you in a nutshell.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's good advice, and definitely the comments that you made about CVs being a standard format and everybody having the kind of increased ROI by X definitely resonates with me. I even read my own CV and I think, I'm not even interested in it myself sometimes. But also, pimp the fuck out of your LinkedIn profile. I think, the what I found with the CV is that because a lot of recruiters are using automated systems, at least this is the advice that I've got, it kind of forces you into a standard plain format on your CV. So it drives
me insane.
Definitely feels like LinkedIn is the opportunity to, be a bit more creative. And I definitely like your advice about, using that as a landing page, making sure that you're writing in a human way. I love your suggestion about talking about your achievements and failures and going beyond the numbers. That's definitely great advice. Just one question. So in terms of the industries, a bit of context is that I've spent, I was at the company that I was at before for around, more than 15 years. And I'm really open-minded about the industry that I want to work in. And I know this sounds a bit kind of vague, but it's really, I wouldn't even mind if it was the fish industry, but it's about the challenge and about the kind of marketing challenge that I would face, I guess, going into an organization. So maybe the answer here is, well, you need to define what you want. But at the moment, I'm really open-minded about industries and really open-minded about companies. So do you think that's okay? And if so, how do I approach that? Or actually, is it, no, you've got to make your mind up and you've got to say, okay, this is what you're after?
So let's take a bit more time. Usually it's 8 minutes, but I really want to help you out. So it doesn't matter the timer. So I think you do need to make some choices here. The fact that you are going to be very open-minded means that you're going to write average stuff, because you have to dilute it. You have to be what you're going to write for tech in the industry, or like, let's say you want to work with Adam Greco, who's an analytics superstar. Let's say the way you're going to write about analytics is not going to be the same than the way you're going to write about the fish industry. So like any go-to-market strategy, you must obsess over a specific market. It doesn't have to be one industry, but there needs to be a thread. If you don't, then the CV is going to be bland. The LinkedIn is going to be bland. The podcast or the newsletter or whatever content you're going to show on LinkedIn is going to be bland. So I think you can, by taking an Excel spreadsheet and writing down all the type of companies you like to work for, you'll see a thread, and you need to make a choice. What is the exact role that you fucking dream about? What is the exact type of companies that you want to work for, their size, their industry? And then pick 20 or 10 to obsess over. Comment on their LinkedIn page when they publish something. Comment on their Twitter. Identify their CMO or whatever, and just like make connection with them. It takes a bit of time, but I can't say I guarantee it, because that would be fucking false advertising, and we don't do that. But there is a strong chance that people will pay attention to you if you do it this way. Yeah. And the strategy here works better for type of roles that are not advertised. And that's one of the things. I've been working in the trade for not as long as you, but for long enough to know that a lot of times we don't even publish roles. It's like, I know this person, I'm going to tell them about it. And so there's a lot of under the hood, under the radar type of jobs that appear. And by doing that, you will catch them before. So you're going to have to take some risk when it comes to that. And the last advice I'm going to give you, unless you have something else, is be afraid, be wary of feedback you're going to get from people around you. Right. So you might do something a bit quote unquote risky. You might feel butterfly in your stomach, and you might have people around you saying, are you sure you want to do that? Or they're going to be like, are you sure? They're going to make you doubt it. Don't listen to this feedback. You must ship that thing. If you dilute it, then it's just going to be like anything else. So I know it's a tough kind of ask at the start, at least, but it's the way to go. And that's the way to fight it. This is why you can't really ask customers for feedback too much about solutions or product. You must only ask them about problems that they have themselves. People are very bad at giving advice on things that are already there and ready to go. So that's my last piece of kind of advice on this.
Cool. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome, man. So if there's anyone in the call right now or listening to this recording who are interested in Richard's skills, which I'm sure they could be, why don't you put your email or whatever in the chat, and then
Sure.
and then maybe people can get in touch with you if they need someone with a seasoned professional like yourself.
Yeah, will do. Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's see if Maya, are you here still? Maya, I can't pronounce your last name, Maya. Maj, are you here? She's not. Okay, I'm gonna get to my the second pick of problems. Let me see who I have. I think Ben. Let me try to find your last name, Ben. We talked before. You are work for an ad agency or marketing agency.
Me, Catley Richardson.
Man, sorry, I just can't remember everyone's last name, but I remember.
No, don't worry. It's better than Kately, which I don't understand. You don't have a pet Kate, but never mind.
So you're gonna be the last submission, and then I'm gonna do a few Q&As. If you have any questions in the chat, please start to put them now, and then I'll review them. But Ben, tell us about you briefly and the specific challenge that you like to solve, please.
So I'm a copywriter and a campaigner, communicator, stakeholder manager by trade. I've done several different roles in private sector and in public sector. And I never really understood strategy until I started my own business. And I was doing that for a while. And then I ended up meeting a company called BrandClear. And I work with BrandClear now, and essentially what we do is take people who are in a similar situation to who you're talking to, but specifically larger businesses who have had a successful period of time. So they're maybe 5 to 10 years old. They are turning over $1 million, but less than 25 million. Essentially, they've built themselves a reputation in a niche or in a local area. And they're ambitious and they want to go further on. I've started calling them the big fish in the little pond. And what we do is help them to craft a clearer message that they're able to go out to a wider market, still the same sort of target market, or a wider area. So to move from, for instance, in the UK, the East Midlands to the whole of the UK, and take that quality and that reputation that they've earned and actually communicate it clearly in a way that makes sense. So it's positioning, essentially, much as you talk about. And I have grilled you on this before, and you've sent me a response to it before. But ultimately, the decision that I have, the challenge that we're facing, is what to call ourselves. And much as other people have talked about, and you've said before, it's that challenge of seeing the label from inside the jar. And it feels terrible that as a company helps people describe themselves clearly, we struggle with it ourselves, but it's true, and we have that problem. So given that what we do is easily mistaken as logo, or branding is mistaken as logo design and web building, stuff like that, marketing is often mistaken for Facebook ads and Google traffic, stuff like that. How do we communicate to people that they can get better marketing if they invest time in strategy, that we know strategy, and that we can help them take that strategy into a clear message to really have the impact that they want to have?
Thanks, man. So yes, one of the core challenges that you have is this kind of, do you create, quote unquote, a new category, in a sense, trying to come up with words that have never been together before so people understand it better. I think in your situation, this would be a very bad idea. Everyone wants to be unique, and every company wants to have a positioning that is unique. Here is the difference. This is the key, and we are 84 people on the call. Please listen to this very carefully. It's not about trying to differentiate yourself from any other companies. It's about the intersection of 3 core components. The category you're in, for you, would be like, let's say, a brand agency. The minimum viable market, the market that you seek to serve, and the actual problem that you solve, the main thing you solve, you help them solve, the value you provide. The intersection of the three is the radical differentiation. It's not one of those three, meaning you then can have a phrase, a sentence that says, we are the only category, so we are the only brand agency for that market, and we to do this or to help you solve that. That's how you nail radical differentiation for any market. This is the magic sentence. So the other thing I would say for you is try to get people who are in the same strategy. Then you can't convince people to fucking give a shit about strategy. Very much like I can't convince you to believe that marketing you shouldn't lie to people to sell. If you don't agree with that statement, you don't listen to the podcast, you don't come here, I don't care. But I want to talk to people who believe what I believe. So talk to people who believe what you believe. They believe the strategy is the very first fucking step towards creating a marketing plan, towards selling more. If they don't believe that, you're going to have to take the oblique long-term strategy, which is to educate them. And it takes a long fucking time. But I can bet you that there are thousands, if not tens of thousands of companies in the UK alone who believe what you believe. Your goal is to find them. There is, I think, 3,000 to 4,000 students every time for Mark Ritson's brand management seminar. They all talk about strategy. He talks about strategy to be the first fucking thing. So it's not that you're the only one believing this. It's that I think you haven't found your people just yet. And I wouldn't try to sweat the details when it comes to trying to find words that explain what you do differently than anyone else. Like we are the only whatever. We are like a brand new word to explain what you do. No, keep it simple to, if you're a brand agency and this is the category that fits you the best, the box that fits you the best, then go in that box and say that you are the only brand agency that does this for that particular market. That's when you achieve radical differentiation. Something else that please you, Ben, and everyone else on the topic. It's getting late. On the call. This is something I haven't shared before, and this is the way to try to find differentiation or to engineer differentiation in your own product or service. Okay, so this is the advice that I have for you. So once you have a market that you obsess over, that you've identified, they have a bleeding neck problem, this is the problem that you help them solve. You must first list down everything that is expected of a category, of this category. Meaning, if you're a brand agency, list down everything that is expected of a brand agency typically. What do they do? Everything, right? What do? They tend to and go a bit in the caricature side. They tend to be late when they answer calls. They tend to all wear suits. They tend to do very good job on this, but not that. Use your knowledge of the category of the box you're in to your advantage. Ask your customers as well, what do you hate the most about our fucking category? What are the cliches, the things that you hate the most about us in general? And then engineer something that is part of that box. So use that box as what you're leaning against, but then play within it. Remove anything that is a cliche that people fucking hate. Remove anything that doesn't solve the core problem. Simplify. That's how you reach radical differentiation, is by removing more than you add. Humans love to fucking add stuff. Remove as much as you can, because that's going to shed light on your uniqueness, and people will rationalize the negatives. Very much like there's a very nice burger joint in Dublin that only sells one burger. They don't sell chicken or anything like that. They have one burger, one drink. People rave about the positive. They rave about that burger and rationalize the fact that there's no other, because they know it's so fucking good. And they can then deliver on the promise. They can double down on it because they get meat from the butcher, the freshest vegetable. By focusing on one thing so well, they can elevate it. And that's what radical differentiation is all about. So lean on your market and ask them for you, what are the cliches? And then fucking remove everything that people expect, that they hate about a brand agency, and engineer an offering that matches. We are the only brand agency that does this for that particular market. And once you do it, this is when you achieve it. And it takes guts. It's not easy to do, but that's when, the magic happened. Just quick example on this. My podcast, Everyone Hates Marketers, is the only marketing podcast. That's the category. For people sick of marketing bullshit. That's the market. I'm the only one in the world who can claim this. It's true, right? And the differentiation doesn't come from just me trying to find a new category. No, I lean on marketing podcasts as the category, but then I play with it. There is no ad in the podcast. I only ask one question at the start, and then we dive into it all in, while other podcasts tend to talk about many different things and people don't listen to their guest. I can go on and on and on. So this is how you achieve radical differentiation. It takes a bit of practice. You must listen to your gut and go for it. Don't listen too much to internal feedback as well. That's a mistake. People don't know what they want until you show them. So test it. Put $100 or £100 on a landing page with a new name or the same name but the different service that is very much like boom, and test it. And if it sticks, boom, then that could become your core offering. So there is a way to test it without taking massive fucking risk. Go small, but go all in, and you won't regret it, because life is too fucking short to not take any risk. Finally, and sorry I picked on you, Ben, but I wanted to talk about this in particular. If you want to come up with ideas to like radically differentiate in a category and play with it, there's a few lengths you can use to see differently. If your product or service was a caricature, how would it look like? That allows you to see the things that are like to exaggerate and augment stuff and remove stuff. What are the luxury items, the luxury things that only a few elite have access to that you could give to the rest of the market? If your product or service was a cereal box, how would it look like? What would you say on it? That allows you to fucking simplify again, because you can't fit everything on a cereal box. How do you make it less fucking boring? How do you remove things that are boring and just keep the what matters the most? How can you add exclusivity or scarcity to it? There's one big pet peeve about agencies and brand agencies and consulting. Every one of them say, book me for a free consultation or 30 minutes. If everyone does that, play against it. Don't show the fact that, I'm available. You can pick on my calendar like for free like that. No, just, maybe build scarcity on it and say, join the waiting list. And the next time I'll have an opening, I'll email you. This is the type of things that are required to go to the edge of the map, as Seth Godin would say, right? So you need to go to the edge of the map and play with attributes in order to do this. So that's what I have for you.
Can I just say that I don't know whether you saw it, but my head went at one point, and you just helped me figure something out. So yeah, that was massively helpful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And it's again the core thing about all of this. So everyone listening right now is confidence. It's all in your head. You have the answers. What I've told you for the last an hour and a half is nothing fucking secret on you. No one is willing to say it because they haven't done the work, but it's all a mindset. You get addicted to this thing. Once you try something a bit risky and you're like, ooh, I'm not too sure. And you'll see people just like and comment and whatever, you're going to be addicted to this. It takes a bit of practice. You're going to have to develop some taste around it. After experience, you're going to start seeing, okay, that feels like that's going to work. But it takes shipping. It's like people asking me, how do I find my voice? You don't find your voice in your own fucking head. You ship. You see what people remember and stick to, and then you double down on that. Very much like I didn't engineer bonjour as my trademark, starting every call. All of you remember that and email me bonjour. So I knew that's something that was a sticky thing. I didn't come up with marketing bullshit or no marketing, no BS. You email me and review and saying like, I love your no BS approach. I didn't come up with that. So lean on your market. This is what marketing is. Your market has the answer. You just need to ask the right questions. So let's fucking do this together. I hope that gives you the energy that you need to fucking radically stand out. Let's answer a few questions if you have any now. I know it's about an hour and a half, but let's say let's give another 27 minutes to answer questions about anything that you want. I'm available for anything. If you have questions about the program, stand the fuck out. You can ask as well. And I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to stay and see who has questions.
I got one if you don't mind.
Let's fucking go, Michael.
Why don't you go take your breath and get a sip first?
Yes, thank you.
So while you're doing that, so talk to me a little bit more about the program, about, I'm a digital marketer. We own a company. We do digital marketing for other customers. Can I get value out of your program to help my customers, or is it really just for me and my company?
Thanks. So I'm going to show you something. So if you're not looking at your screen, everyone, please do. I've printed out all of the interviews I've done on the podcast as booklets. So those are all the transcripts. This is only 20 episodes, right? And I've made sense of it. I took 1 month off to build that fucking program. Rereading my books, taking notes and whatever. The reason why I tell you this is not a brand new fucking system that no one has taught you before. It's just my own experience, the mistake I've made, and other people I've been influenced by, and people on the podcast who are much smarter than me. And I've just put it together in an 8-step kind of way. And this is the beauty of it. You can use it for your own stuff, but you can use it for your own clients. And this is what I've seen on the first cohort. People have used it already for their own clients. We had a tech agency in, and they started to do it for themselves. And then they also started to sell the service for others. So yes, short answer, absolutely. And this is the beauty of it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. If anyone has any question, you can send it on the chat. If you're too shy, I'm not going to put you on the spot. I'm going to actually go back and see if I can see any questions. Thank you for folks who have actually written.
Question, Louis.
Go ahead.
Sorry, a bit of delay. Arvind Bala here in Toronto in the senior living space, senior living sector. So I head the marketing and brand strategy for the organization. One of the challenges I'm grappling with is positioning when I know the product, service, the brand experience is not there. So how do you tackle that? I know it's putting the cart before the horse, but wanted to get your insights into how do you position a product which is not ready?
So a product that is not ready, or a product that is shit?
That is half-baked. It's not shit completely. We are in business, obviously, so it's not total crap, but it's really not 100% or where I would like it to be.
Okay. So the hard truth about all of this is that you can't radically differentiate without a good product that a certain group of people absolutely love. And for some fucking reason, marketing has become synonymous with promotion in the last few years. Marketing, the traditional marketing, the 4 Ps is product, price, place, promotion. Promotion is only a quarter of traditional marketing definition. So as marketers, as brand, like creators or whatever, we must be able to influence the product as well. We're not just there to fucking promote it once it's there. So my advice to you is find any way you can to influence that, to earn the trust of people who are developing that product, to identify your market. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's absolutely critical. Identify your minimum viable market and make sure, get their feedback on it. Make sure to know how to improve the fuck out of that product. Because if you don't have a good product, your job as a marketer is going to be very tough. So that's for the quote unquote bad product. And I'm not implying that you have a bad product. I'm just saying we as marketers must influence that. As for let's say a product that is not live, was that also your question, or like that it hasn't been seen yet, or?
No, the product is live. I use one of the phrases you had used in your podcast. Marketing is not going to solve a product issue, product problem. So I use that very frequently, and we're making inroads. I think my question is really, and I got your answer already, is that you need to first get the product right and make sure it's really ready for the market before you start talking about it, because otherwise it'll be a waste of time for the consumer.
So it's a balance, right? Like it's a balancing act, and it's constantly like you're on this very tiny kind of rope, and you don't want to fall, but you also need to move forward. And you need standards. So it's not going to be perfect, but you need to agree on the minimum standard, that's why it's called the minimum viable product. It's not because it needs to be shitty. It's like, what is the least amount we must do to create the right experience for the specific market? So, and this is the trick. So you do need to ship to see what people think. They do need to experience the product, but if they don't, and if it stays in your head and inside the organization for too long, then it's not good enough. So it's always it's a very, very small margin. And with experience, which I'm sure you have, you can spot when it's not that ready. But you also need to force yourself to ship before you feel it's ready, because you can't see the label from inside the jar, and because you're not necessarily a good judge of your product anymore. You're too much inside it. You are what Young Mi Moon, who wrote the book called Different, you are a category connoisseur. Right, which means that you know too much about your product to fucking see it for what it is. So Do you have ways to ship? You can do like fake door, meaning you have a page and you sell it and whatever, and they can test it, but it's actually not real. You can do campaigns where people can join a waiting list, let's say, and you sell them the idea of the product, but they can't see it yet. But I would really favor shipping over obsessing over it must be the best. It must be perfect, because you can't make a good product without having people see it first.
Thank you, Louis. That was helpful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, yes, so the chat, Ben is asking, will the chat be saved? Yeah, what I'll do is I'll send it as a link in the email tomorrow with the recording as well as the chat, so you can relook at all your comments. So I'm seeing a question here. Akinduyo is asking, I'm a freelance content writer and I would love to know how I can brand myself and get high-paying clients. Yeah, okay. How many hours do you have? So I think it's a similar story about like building a personal brand, finding a job and whatnot. The same advice I gave to Richard earlier on. You first need to pick a market. If you're only new as a content writer and you don't have clients, then you must expose your work to as many people as you can, because you don't know the ideal clients before you start working with them. So I would disagree with the advice to say you need to go niche straight away. If you're a beginner, don't go niche. Explore things, see what sticks and what doesn't, and then classify your market in the 4 things. Like, do you really love working with them? Do they love working with you? So joy. Do you have access to them? Is there are you admin of a Facebook group where you have all of those people in? Do you have a podcast with this audience? Do you have an actual pain, or is it just a nice to have? And then can they pay you enough, right? So, and then I would obsess over that market, give them value. And I hate this fucking word, which means solve their problem in public if you can. Do tear downs, show your work, do case studies, go on podcasts. Things get easier in marketing once you know who the market is. And I know I've been repeating that for the last hour and 41 minutes, but that's absolutely fucking key. If it's too narrow, too wide, you're going to really struggle. You'll do average thing for average people. So the other thing is to not live in your own head for too long. So ship stuff, see what sticks, be where people are. And to get high-paying clients, your reputation will then start to grow once you obsess over a market and become very good at it. But that takes patience. Okay. Carolina Macia. How can I position a product that was not created necessarily with the customer in mind, but the other way around?
Yeah, sorry, I wanted to, hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to give my some context, because basically it's, I have a side project going on where I try to give visibility to artists and their art pieces that are not working with an art gallery. So by default, their art pieces are more affordable, not necessarily cheap, but more affordable. And yeah, in this case, the product is art pieces that are created by artists, not really thinking about the customer necessarily or doing any research, but it's the other way around.
Very, very, very interesting question. In fact, in the first cohort of Stand the Fuck Out, we had a visual designer, like someone who was designing for video games. Noel, doesn't matter what his name is. I can put you in touch. But anyway, he asked us a very similar question. How can art solve a problem? How can it be a pain for someone else to buy? Love that question. So let's go into it. It's not a real need. It's a want. They want status. People who buy art usually want status. They buy a fucking painting so that they can put it in the living room, so that they can show status to their neighbors and their friends and say, hey, I'm into art. Are you? Right? And I can bet that you can find folks who can't wait to show who they are and increase their status or their perceived status to others. By giving them pieces of art that look fucking good, where they can tell a story around it, because they also want that. You know, it's not just a painting, it's a story they want to tell around it. Why did I pick this one? Oh, it reminded me about my childhood, and look how beautiful it is. And, you know, I think status is very important in your particular area. And I'm making guesses here, but I would also recommend you to talk to people about and try to dig into that. Not as easy as B2B problems where people say, well, I needed to get invoiced on time or whatever the fuck. But if you dig enough, I think you'll get back to the very emotional need of status. That's a universal need that humans have. And so how can you then target folks who do have that need? And again, don't try to convince people that art is a necessity for people who don't believe that. It's not for everyone. It's for people who believe that art is the way for them to be perceived as, someone who knows their shit, but they don't need to pay 15 grand or 100 grand to increase their status. They can pay £200 or €200. If I remember seeing your website, it's not that expensive.
Exactly. Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Very helpful.
You're welcome. Okay, so yeah, I'm sorry I'm overloading you with information, but this is the beauty of a recording. So please you listen back to the bonus episode on the podcast, or and like anything, you need to listen into a few times to pick up everything. This is why I watch the TV show Fargo maybe once every 6 months to make sure I rewatch it, because it's such a fantastic fucking TV show. Let's see. Chintan, sorry if I'm pronouncing your first name badly. I'm 22 and entered this tech marketing industry 7 months back, so very early. What should be a skill set for ideal marketer? In other words, what Louis will see when he has to hire someone. So I have stopped hiring people, and that's the first step. In India, some reason marketing called digital marketing, running ads. Yeah, everywhere, not only in India, marketing equal promotion for people. So I think you need to think back about yourself. What gives you the most energy? What are the things that you really love doing and you don't realize it's work? What are the type of people you like to work around? And I would switch, and then I would think about who can you give to. I really believe in that. If you really switch your mindset to how can I help as many people as possible in the deepest way possible, you'll start doing marketing without realizing it. How can you be generous with your time and energy? The fact that you're already on this call means that you are probably smarter than average. I shouldn't say that. I'm joking. The fact that you're on this call means that you believe in what we believe, which means that we don't have to fucking say bullshit to sell. We can be honest and generate sales and pay ourselves our salary without fucking with our beliefs. And so we believe the same thing. I mean, 7 months in the industry is, I can think back when I was only 7 months in. You have a lot of energy, probably a lot of ideas. So open your mind to all of those type of scenarios and stuff, and try to really follow that energy. And I know it might sound a bit stupid and fluffy, but actually knowing what gives you energy versus knowing what sucks energy out of you is a very important metric. And this is why I'm on this call. I can do that for 10 hours nonstop because I fucking love it. And you need to kind of follow that. So 7 months is very early, I think, to have that knowledge, but soak up as much knowledge as you can. Listen to all the episodes on the podcast, follow the people that I've invited on the podcast, and start being very cognizant of that. That would be my advice. Okay, we have 13 minutes left for anyone who has any question. Please go ahead. Trying to look back as well because there's a lot of fucking comment.
Can I jump in if recruiters aren't more annoying than marketers?
I don't know that. I don't know. Like, maybe you need to start Everyone Hates Recruiters as well.
Yeah. So can I go?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Cool. So love your stuff around content, by the way. Like, that's the direction I want to go in. But yeah, so I can sell to hiring managers who are technical. I recruit in the AI space. But I can also sell to HR managers or internal recruiters. Typically, HR and internal recruiters are targeted to not spend money on me, but I'm a specialist in my field. So how do I go about sort of saying, I can recruit these people faster, better than your current methods, but without necessarily bringing that up? Because everyone's part of the same company. You don't want to put someone else down. So I just don't know how to position that pain, if you know what I mean. There's a hiring manager say they've not been able to find someone for 6 months, but they've been told they can't spend any money on external agencies. Like, how do you rub salt into that wound without being rude about HR?
So you've waited 1 hour and 49 minutes, me being drained to ask one of the trickiest questions you could ask. Thank you. Interesting one. So let me rephrase to make sure I understand. You would compete with people inside the same company in a sense. You would basically compete against internal resources like hiring managers who quote unquote fail to do their job, and you do it better.
Yeah, so there might be a technical hiring manager and they want to work with me, but the internal recruiter doesn't want to work with me. And I'm working with someone who's targeted to do the opposite thing, basically. So it's always difficult in that sense.
Who tends to recruit you then to hire you for your job?
So startups, it might be a CTO or CEO or something like that. Large organizations, it will always have to go through HR / internal recruitment. Even if the hiring manager or the director of AI wants to use me, it has to go through HR first. So,
and they're usually a blocker.
Yeah.
So between the two, between startups who don't have hiring managers and bigger companies who do, which one do you prefer to work for?
Startups who don't have HR and all that.
Do they have enough money to pay you, or is it a bit trickier to be paid properly by them?
Scoping out their investment and is one of the things I have to do, I guess. But yeah, it's riskier, I guess. But I've never had someone that didn't pay me.
Okay, well, that's a good sign. So my advice, perhaps, and I know it's easier to say that from an outside perspective, my advice perhaps would be to really work and focus on a market that really loves what you do and where there is no blocker inside the company where it becomes a bit more of a struggle. Because you will always face an uphill battle. People will protect their ground and you will be seen as a risk. You'll be seen as a threat even to them and to their livelihood, especially in this current climate. So if they have money to pay, if startups have money to pay, if they understand what you can do for them, I would probably double down on that. And you're already quite niche with AI, which is wonderful. So that means you can really be the only AI recruiter for startups in AI. And you don't even need to, you could add something else. You can add like a guarantee or something to make it even more specific. This is what I love about specificity is you can really make it, what is the unique thing that you do? What is the little quirk or the thing that tends to happen thanks to you that you can, specify? Is it that you guarantee to get a candidate within 3 weeks? Is it that you do it under whatever, what is the little thing? And again, that requires a bit of taste and experience, and it's not as easy as it seems. But by interviewing back your recent customers, you will find those type of nuggets. Pay particular attention to what people tell you, the words they use when they describe what you do, why they love you. You should find something. But yeah, again, from an outside perspective, my advice would be to double down on companies who love you and where there's no threat internally who can sabotage you.
Thank you so much.
Does it make sense? Yeah?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. So David has a question. What if we do all a really good job and marketers become better and then nobody hates marketers anymore? Will I change the brand's name? Very insightful question. I won't. Do you know why? Because new people come into the market, because Neil Patel is still there to lie and tell you bullshit. So don't worry. Gary Vee is also here to hustle you. So everyone will hate marketer for a long time. So I'm pretty sure my company is safe. We have 7 minutes left. So if you have any question, fire away, don't be shy. We're gonna have to put people on the spot.
Hi, Louis.
Hi.
Hi. So kind of similar to what Chintan was saying and kind of Richard earlier on as well. I'm a second-year undergraduate doing marketing management, and I'm currently looking for a placement role. So my question is kind of how to make myself stand out when able to learn the skills and get the experience I need without having kind of Richard's 20 years experience prior. How do I go about selling the skills that I currently do have to gain the ones that I want?
So thanks for asking this question. What's your name again? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Jess. Sorry.
Jess. Hi. Good evening or good morning or afternoon, wherever you are. So congrats on studying marketing.
Thank you.
I know it's a nice field when you are surrounded by the right people, just like right now. So thank you for paying attention and all of that. So it's very similar to Richard's, to the advice I gave to Richard. And it's a belief of mine. You can disagree with this. You can go the traditional route and compete with all of the other students who are graduating every year in marketing from different university, and have this mindset of expecting people to pay attention because, you know what, I graduated, so pay attention to me. I paid so much for this fucking degree. You better fucking hire me. But guess what? Everyone else is in the same situation than you, right? So I know that's a normal mindset to have. One of my younger brother has that sometimes, and it's normal to think this way. I don't blame you for thinking this way if you do. The other route is a riskier route on paper, but it's actually not. It's actually the less risky, because if you don't take risk, you're going to face obscurity. If you face obscurity, it's going to be tough to stand out. So you must take some risk, and you don't need to have 20 years of experience to have a lot of skills. I would soak up everything you can learn. I would spit it out in some ways. Whatever books you read, summarize it, post it on LinkedIn. Whatever podcast episode from Everyone Hates Marketers Only you listen to, summarize it, connect the dots. You know, creativity is not coming up to something new. Creativity is connectivity. You connect things together. You just, I had this experience and I read that in a book. Boom, put that together. That's a new piece of content. So don't sweat those type of this thinking. It's not about being creative from scratch. It's about connecting stuff together. And don't be afraid of just putting yourself out there. As marketers, we must show our skills, and it doesn't take long sometimes to know what type of post on Instagram works or what type of post on LinkedIn works or whatever. Another advice I would give you, and not only you, but everyone else on the call, is to have a swipe file. That saved my life more than once. You don't need to come up with stuff on your own. Screenshot everything that you like online. Pay particular attention to ads that you pay attention to. Have you ever bought a product from an ad before? Then screenshot that ad because it worked. Screenshot, magazines ads or just a LinkedIn post or Instagram or whatever. And then when it comes to trying to find new ideas, you just look back at that and say, oh shit, I could do something like that. That's how I came up with this. I mean, it's from Hilary Weiss, who's a messaging positioning expert as well. And she talked about that, and I just told that idea, that's it. I'm not trying to say I'm come up with any new idea. No. So try to share problems in public. The fact that you are a graduate doesn't mean anything in terms of your knowledge. You can be very fast at making sense of the world and books and resources. So show yourself, take some risk. Don't necessarily do a CV like everyone else's. Identify a few companies you love to work for, contact them. Show what you're made of, because in our field in particular, I'm not talking about mechanical engineering or obscure field. In marketing, we must show that we can market. And this is a nice exercise as well that you can do to show your skills. So again, I know it's not easy. I know it's not necessarily the advice that you want to hear because it takes a bit of time, but you're going to learn so much from that process that I think it's going to be beneficial to you. So does it make sense?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you very much, Louis.
You're welcome. Stefan said about the dig on Neil Patel and Gary Vee. What was it about? Don't hate the players, just hate the game. Yeah. Sometimes I sleep. It's like an hour, 58 minutes of us together. So I just didn't have the mental strength to stay true to my principles. And I think that's a lesson for everyone. I'm not perfect. And so, I might say stuff that I regret after. Do I regret this? No, I don't. Am I going to share the meeting? Yes, so I will, again, the 2-hour recording will be sent to you tomorrow over email. If you have any questions about it, if you have any question about Stand the Fuck Out, the 8-week program, please let me know as well. I'm going to post the address here again, and then I'll post it in the email. You can reply directly. It sounds like I should do that a bit more often. I don't want to do it too often, but it sounds like that's something I should do because it sounds like it's been valuable. So I might organize something else soon. Thank you for all of you who stayed in for so long. Thank you for submitting all those things. And thank you for your question. Thank you for paying attention, for listening to the podcast for years, for a few of you. Yeah, I love you. I shouldn't say that, but I do. Thanks for paying attention. Like, it means a lot to me. I know it's a tough fucking year, tough few months, but we've got this, and let's fucking do this. Let's take some risk, and let's be seen. Au revoir, as we say.
Thanks, Louis.
Cheers, Richard. Take it easy.